So that will bring us to something like 20 units. And then I think the most exciting
the most
project,
recent one
is we've acquired a piece of land, secured it. It's in planning now for a development of four-bed townhouses.
Awesome.
And we're hoping to start the build in April.
So, have the pleasure of having you guys on the show. We have Dan and we have Ashley. If you can just introduce who you are, what you guys are doing, that'd be great.
Yep, brilliant. So we run a property business called Peace of Mind Projects, and we're a married couple. We've been married for 8 years. We have a beautiful little girl called Isabel, who's almost 2, and my background's in nursing. So I've been a nurse for 10 years, and I'm still nursing part-time alongside the property.
Yeah, and I work in sales as an account director for a software company based in London. So I'm doing that full time, and then we're doing property on the side as well.
And you travel a lot, right?
Yeah, quite a bit of traveling.
Awesome. So maybe we can hear a bit more about that and your challenges to do with the property. But why property in the first place? Like, that's obviously your choice and for your vehicle that you're using to have financial freedom and do the things that you want to do. But like, why? How did that come about?
So I would say probably not that many years ago, I didn't even want a property portfolio. So it's really interesting that we are where we are now. But
why was that? What was your thought behind it?
Well, when I was doing my nurse training, myself, Dan and the team, we went to the Philippines and did some humanitarian work. And basically, whilst I was out there, we realised we have a massive passion for doing more and giving back more. And in our current situation with like a salaried job, working full time, got a family, you don't have the time freedom to do that. And you also, our finances were enough to support our family, maybe go on a couple of nice holidays, but we weren't able to really do the big things that we want to do in our lives.
So why did you think you didn't want a portfolio of property?
I just didn't have that awareness.
Yeah.
So at that point, when we realised we had that passion, we knew we needed a financial vehicle, but I just didn't know where to start or how to make that happen. And I never thought that property would be that thing. But Dan's quite different. He always knew. So I remember we were driving to Cardiff, and Dan's always been into his audiobooks, and he put on Rich Dad Poor Dad in the car, and I'd never listened to it before, and there were so many light bulbs. Imagine how many times I paused this book on this car journey, oh, that's what an asset is, that's what a liability is, that's what financial, like passive income is, like all the basics.
It was the longest car journey.
It just started lighting up light bulbs, and I realised actually property could be that vehicle to give us time freedom, financial freedom, to do the bigger things that we want to do in our lives, not just self-sustain.
And I think we had quite different mindsets as well. So my background, I'm from a family that's fairly entrepreneurial, into business and so on, invest in property as well. And I think Ashley sort of came from it from a perspective that, well, I don't really want a portfolio because I don't need all of that. And what am I going to do with it? And is that just being greedy? And then I think it was that process of understanding you can help a lot of other people and create time freedom. That's when she said, well, actually, this is completely flipped on its head. So I think that's where she came from in terms of not even having an awareness or wanting it. And then we realised that might be a vehicle. And for me personally, I mean, my dad passed away when I was 19. So I was really kind of impacted by his funeral and how many people came to give their thanks and how many people he impacted and the legacy he left behind. I just didn't have any awareness of that stuff. So it just made me think, from that point, I really had a mission to try and leave my own legacy and like make a difference on a bigger impact. So that was bubbling away in the background. So I think it all came to a head, and we had very strong personal drivers, if that makes sense. Ashley was sort of really passionate about humanitarian work. I was passionate about leaving a legacy. And therefore, once you're there, you're always on the lookout then. It's almost like your senses are trying to detect what's going to help you get to that point.
Heightened, because property is so... some people do see it like that, like you're greedy, why do you need so much income, all of this. Yeah, you are going to be successful in business if you do it correctly, but at the same time, you're providing higher standard of living for people.
Definitely.
So you're putting less horrible property standards and everything out there, so that people can actually enjoy more, get more out of their lives and their experience. Because we hear it all the time, like the tenants have said to us, oh, where I used to live, I used to feel a bit rubbish about myself, didn't have a lot of respect for myself, whereas once we started living in your property, you know, I just feel better, it just makes me feel nicer. And then they start to do more. I think we actually had a tenant come to one of our events before as well.
Oh, wow.
They change everything.
It's amazing how that happens. You're right, your environment definitely makes you feel more confident, more valued as a person.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing how that happens.
I mean, this is beyond property, and we're going to touch on some of that. But are you saying it was literally the book, the audio book that you listened to, and then that's it, you made the decision, or were there other factors to it as well?
Well,
I think Dan always knew he wanted a property portfolio, but for me it was the book that helped me put those puzzle pieces together and realised actually that is for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So imagine the book opens our awareness, and then we actually became accidental landlords. So we were trying to sell our small flat, buy a bigger home to start a family. The sale fell through about a week before we were due to complete. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And it was a panic.
It was a panic. We'd never been in that situation before. We thought we were going to lose this house, we'd fallen in love with it by now. Fortunately, the bank were really kind, and they said, okay, we can remortgage, you can let this property for a period of time and we'll see how it goes. And that was the beginning. So that gave us an understanding of how it worked. It was, you know, turning over a good amount. We were having really good engagements with our tenant. She was wonderful. We were providing a good home. So that changed everything. And then we saw an ad for a course, because we place quite a high value on education. So we think if you're going to learn to do something, do it properly. Invest the time, and then that way you don't make mistakes and you do something really good.
So at this point, you've already decided?
Yes, at this point we're like,
we've decided.
So property is a vehicle.
Correct.
We're going to hit this, we're going to go for it.
Correct.
So you start getting educated. So, so now your journey started. So what kind of challenges, obstacles came up that were...
a lot, really.
I think in the initial phases, a lot of it was in the early phases before we came to real life was confidence. And the confidence to take action, or even just someone like level of accountability to take action, because we'd accumulated a lot of knowledge, done a lot of market research, knew that it was the right thing for us, but we really struggled to put that into action.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that you kind of knew what it is you needed to do, but you wasn't doing now what you knew.
We were just moving very, very slowly.
That's precisely it.
Yeah.
So imagine we had all the background knowledge, we'd done the research, we were sort of classroom smart at that point. We knew how to invest and run numbers, but it was the action, and the action was actually fairly scary. So many moving parts. We just didn't know how to put it into action.
So you've been to education, you've been to programs, you've been to courses. They give you all the information, kind of classroom education type
and it was
thing.
good,
And they were really good, and we did learn a lot from them.
And actually, one thing we were able to do from that is, even though we weren't building our portfolio, we were able to help, for instance, my mother refinance her property as an investment, buy her retirement home outright, and then have a passive income to support her. So she was fine in retirement. So that was quite good. So that came out of the education, but we were just taking baby steps in our own journey.
So what was the challenge? What was stopping you?
For me personally, was mainly confidence. And you know, when we talk about Transformation Tuesday, if I were to talk about my transformation, the biggest thing I would say would be confidence from the consistent action we've taken with real life. But for you, I'm not sure what was you.
So I think the challenge was always implementation. So it was, okay, well, when you're about to make an offer and you're freaking out because you don't know if it's going to work out or not, and people are telling you, oh, the market's going to dip and X, Y, and Z, it's who do you have to support you and who's experienced and has been there before, a coach or a mentor to say, hey, don't worry, you've run the numbers, here's what it looks like, it's robust, you know, you can do this. Or even a kick up the bum. So many times we made excuses in our own mind. Oh, we're busy, we've just had a baby, you know, I've got an exam next month or whatever.
Procrastination.
That's it.
Well, I think that's the thing, is that because it's scary and you lack confidence, you fill your head with all these excuses.
That's it.
So you don't have to face the scary lack of confidence.
So that was still happening at the...
Yeah.
Because you registered, the first time you ever came to an event, you registered. Yeah, and I think actually you were coming to the event,
Yeah.
and you said you're not coming because you're taking care of the baby.
Correct. So I was trying to do the noble thing and say, I'll look after the baby this time.
Yeah.
It's not just down to the mother. Ashley, you can go to the course. And I think I sent you a message and I said, okay, Ashley will be coming, I won't be able to make it. And you said, bring the baby.
Yeah, no hesitation.
Yeah. Bring the baby. So we literally brought Isabel, she was 6 months old at the time, into the seminar.
I was popping out to breastfeed, popping back in.
And she did a great job. She was quiet most of the time, but it was that decision has made the biggest difference in terms of where we are now compared to where we had been in the previous 3 years. And it was just coming to that event, being exposed, and then signing up for the coaching, getting involved, being part of a community that was doing it. I can't emphasize enough how much that switch, we talk about on and off, that switch was like
like what we achieved in 3 years prior to coming to the real life event. We've now quadrupled in the last 12 months. In terms of our results.
Four
passive
times
income.
more. 4 times more in 1 year than you did 3 years. Well, that's good. And I do remember actually there was another program that we're in the middle of an activity, very hands-on activity, so you're actually gaining experience, and you were on the phone dealing with was it an exchange or completion?
I remember. Oh gosh, that was
it was a completion.
It was the completion of our first HMO project, and the vendor, her partner lived abroad, and for some reason hadn't executed on the final sort of signatures, so she was frantically trying to get hold of him. Meanwhile, we had an investor, a private investor, who had invested in this deal for the refurb, and he was at the point, because it had kept being delayed, he was going to pull out and invest elsewhere. So you're right, we were on the coaching program and I was literally on the phone trying to get this over the line. Fortunately, it got done, but that process was challenging, stressful, but I think luckily that weekend we were around people who were just full of positivity. And I think that helps you when you're in those tough moments,
It just makes it like it's just another thing you need to do. Like you were saying, lack of confidence and the lack of execution. It's like when you're in an environment where it's like, this is just normal.
Correct. Everybody's executing.
It's just a challenge. Because I think that's where, if you're not surrounding yourself with certain networks of people that are doing it actively themselves, you can be trained about it and you can go to different programs and things like that, but a lot of the time it's about active people that are doing it every single day, facing those challenges, and it's not so much a problem anymore, it's just a challenge, and there's always a solution. Somebody's been there, try this, do this, or you can do it, it's going to be fine. But when you're around different networks, because we were talking to somebody else about this earlier, those people that don't understand the process and the system and how to even do it as a business are like, we knew it wouldn't work, so you just pull out now, just whilst you've got, you've not lost that much money, just come away from it, it doesn't work, and because they're the naysayers.
But it's like what Dan is saying, it's all environment, because even I'm just listening to you say those words and thinking somebody watching this and they're thinking, oh yeah, just go for it. And it sounds, like, it just sounds all like hype stuff. You've got to understand that, like, it's the experience.
That's what it is.
It's not just hearing about it. You can't you had all the classroom knowledge, so you knew practically what to do, but you could read a book about driving a car or riding on a bike. That doesn't mean that you can do it, because there's only through the experience of riding the bike are you going to really learn how to make it happen.
And I think that one of the biggest factors is just having social proof, just seeing that everyday ordinary people can do it, right? And that opened our eyes as well, because you were in this network, this tribe, this group of people, and everybody was taking action and getting results and working hard. And you were just like, well, if they can do it, I can definitely do it. And sometimes that's the biggest thing.
And that's what I want people to see. I want people to look at each of us and you and all the other people that are inspiring people and just say, look, if they can do it, I can do it, without all those excuses. Because they're easy. It's kind of easy to give an excuse.
Oh, mate, they're there all the time.
So since then, has there been any more challenges? What would you say your biggest challenge was? You said confidence, you said lack of execution, but like, what was it that was like making you just be a bit standoffish?
Do you know, there's always this fear and this risk of losing, right? And losing out, losing money, effort and time, your investment, all those things. There's always that fear. So that is there constantly. It doesn't go away. It's just you find a way to deal with it and get through it. So when we started the journey with Real Life, the challenge was getting over the fear, because we were going into uncharted territory. We were looking at HMOs and more advanced things than what we were doing before, which was just a single buy to let. So the challenge there was, one, understanding how the process works, how to best do it, find the right properties, build your power team. That was difficult, and actually invested a lot of time in building that team, getting the right contractor, the right advisors, so that we were in a point to go forward. So I'd say a challenge was overcoming the fear and then putting the right pieces together.
Yeah.
And once we did that successfully, I think we were able to move forward.
I also think there's a fear of judgment as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because I came from a background where I thought, oh, maybe it's greedy, or, you know, maybe people who want a lot of money are bad. So although I don't believe those things anymore, I'm aware that other people have those beliefs. So it's that fear of, well, if I'm doing this, am I going to be judged? Are people who are important to me going to like me less because I've chosen this path?
Yeah,
Wow,
it's always
that's
there.
so true.
That's a genuine fear. So if you're then trying to build your business and your brand, and you're having to, you know, talk about it more with people, there's always that fear at the back of your mind. And that is something that definitely stopped me taking action.
Yes. Couldn't have said it better. Yeah, spot on.
I think this whole fear thing, it's like you say, there's a fear of losing money or the deal couldn't work out and all the rest of it. I think something that we're creating to help people learn quicker through very experiential programs and coaching and things is we switched that on its head. And it came up in another, you know, in Transformational Tuesday we're doing. It's like, what's got the biggest fear? The fear of actually you're going to go and do something, and maybe, you know, you lose a little bit of money or you learn something, but like it looks like you didn't know what you were doing. Is that pain bigger, or is the pain that, well, actually, if I'm going to take 3 years to do something, well, I can do 4 times as much in 1 year, what have I missed out on? Like,
Correct.
That's like, people don't look at that's like what they lost by not doing it.
Yeah.
They look at what they'll lose if they do
If
it.
they do it,
What might I lose? But what are you going to lose if you don't do anything? And I think if you weigh that up, then it's more of a slap in the face to say, well, what's the, I mean...
No, but I think you say this all the time, so on that specific subject, it's that people are... losing my train of thought. But people are waiting for something drastic to happen.
Yes.
Something to go wrong, like a health concern or something to wake them up to say, I need to do something about it, waiting for the opportunity to come.
Waiting to hit rock bottom.
Wait, that's what
people are waiting to hit rock bottom
then,
to then decide, oh, okay, now I'm going to do something.
All or nothing, I've got nothing else to lose, right?
So it's like if you're here in life, you're waiting to here, but now you've got all this distance to go. I mean, if you're here, just go from here. It's a lot easier.
Because people wait for a tragic circumstance to change something in their lives. Or people say, you're lucky. You create
all the time.
your own luck.
Or just time. It's just time as well. I mean, it's not necessarily rock bottom, but it's just like, you know, if you take 2 years to make a decision, what you could have made in 2 minutes or 2 seconds, like...
Correct.
Where's the pain? Where's the real pain? The fact that I'm going to do something I don't know, or the fact that I'm going to spend 2 years could be, you could say, wasted.
You're right. And I think sometimes people look at the scale of the challenge and they think that's just too big, I just can't get there. And sometimes we always try to recognize the fact that, look, I'm in full-time work, I'm also doing a degree at the moment, Ashley's part-time, we've got a little girl, and it's just about starting. Just take a step, and then the next step will come, the next step. I mean, when we got the first HMO, everything was learning on the job. It was one step at a time.
And it still will be.
Exactly, one challenge at a time. So I think that's important to recognise. Just give yourself a chance.
And that's what was so good about the coaching, was that it helped you actually to just break it down into actions that you're committed to. And you say, okay, I'm going to do these actions in the next 7 to 10 days. And then we're going to come back and review.
Correct.
And it made it feel less big because you thought, okay, I've just got these 7 to 10 days, I've got 10 actions, off I go.
Manageable chunks, making it not so much of it, because that's the thing, it is focusing here. That's where I want to be, that's great, but what do we need to do in the interim?
But it makes it sound so simple, and the easy thing about that is because it is simple. But there's a load of other stuff around that and it needs to be dealt with. But you're working part-time, plus looking after, you know, your daughter, you are full-time job, flying all over the place, plus you're doing a degree. Is that part-time, or is it taking a lot of your time?
It's part-time, so it's a part-time MBA, so most of it is online. So
MBA,
something in the evenings, working with groups
so you've got that, and you're doing the property stuff. So with all that stuff going on, you went from accidental landlord, you said,
Yes.
one buy-to-let, to now what is it that you're doing
Yeah,
in the last 12 months?
So in the last 12 months, so we have bought and converted and refurbished 2 HMOs. The second one was actually a commercial to residential conversion. So again, a whole new, different level of learning. That was a fantastic project, due to finish actually in 4 weeks. And then we have another 8-bed HMO in planning right now. So that will bring us to something like 20 units. And then I think the most exciting
The most
project,
recent one, yeah.
is we've acquired a piece of land, secured it. It's in planning now for a development of 4-bed townhouses.
Awesome.
And we're hoping to start the build in April. And
Yeah.
that's just blown our mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really cool
Do you
project.
think being accidental
12 months.
landlords, in 12 months you were going to be building and
Yeah.
developing land?
No,
Mind blown. And do you know
not
what?
definitely not.
The most amazing thing I think out of the whole thing is that in that process in the last 12 months, we've been able to sponsor 3 children through property. So the properties that we've acquired and we've got rental income from, a small percentage goes towards giving kids in a developing country, actually in Africa, in Ghana where I'm from, an education. It supports their community. Wow. And then we also invested,
We've also twinned 11
That's it.
toilets.
Yeah.
So because all our HMO rooms were en suite, every ensuite toilet has twinned a toilet in a developing country. So that's 11 communities now who have toilets who didn't because of the HMOs.
Wow.
The cool thing about HMOs is that they need so many toilets, right? So you can just do more with that. So that was really cool because we always thought we wanted to do something right from the start rather than saying, okay, we'll wait till we're here and we've accumulated this amount of passive income
So
before
is
we
there
get back.
something that other
Yeah.
people who are investing in property, they can do this thing as well? Well, what is it, when you buy a toilet?
Yeah,
Yeah,
easily, yeah.
What
So
is
it's just a
that?
website, toilettwinning.org, and you pay £60. So you have to pay for it, obviously. But you pay £60 to twin a toilet, and then you get a certificate, and then you can hang it up against the toilet that it's twinned with.
Yeah.
So your tenants can see, oh, this toilet is twinned with a toilet in Nepal,
Yeah.
and there's a picture of the new toilet, and it's really
It's
lovely.
very cool. It's a very cool initiative. And obviously it's kind of linked with property. So for us, it was just fairly natural.
But it's because you're using that as the vehicle. I mean, there's so many people that may just be desperate to give back.
That's
They
it.
really want to help people, but you have to help yourself first. Because
Definitely.
you cannot, it's like what they say on the plane, put your own oxygen mask on first before you try and help others, because
Yes.
if you pass out, you can't help anybody.
No, exactly.
You know? So this is what's so beautiful about the journey or the learning that you've created in this, because the people that are watching can say, I'm desperate to work with underprivileged people and humanitarian work, but I just don't have the time or the money.
Yeah.
So then property is one vehicle that you could use that has helped you guys be able to do it, and you're living it and you're still giving back. It's amazing.
Yeah, massively.
That's a big learning to create out of that.
Yeah, it is huge.
It's true. And
Yeah.
Ashley, one of Ashley's drivers, and she always says this to me, is that when we're working in our full-time jobs, you pretty much have enough resource to look after you and your family.
Yeah.
And maybe, you can donate to a few things. But, when you start looking at passive income and things like property, you can really have an impact that's bigger than you imagined, and I think that's a big driver for us.
Yeah, and there's so many ways you can do that. But for us, this is a thing that we are passionate about.
Yeah.
But, I think, I know another group of investors who give a percentage of their rental income to a homeless charity. So it's like a home for a home kind of model, which, depending on what you're passionate about, you can use that vehicle to support other
I
things.
think that's why it's important to scale quicker. Some people, they want to do it like one house, and another few years later they want to do another house. I mean, that's okay if you want to do that, but I think that's just absence of not knowing how you
Correct.
can do it. Like, you guys are doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And we never would have
Outside
imagined
of
that.
property. Add the property on, you got to make sure you are very efficient and you can do things, really good. So what advice do you have to people that have maybe the same challenges that you do, like the time thing, you're having children, then you got like working.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to talk about the team, and you're going to talk about the systems, because you love systems.
Okay, cool.
So I think the first thing is building a really strong team, because we live 3 hours from our investment area, which is another factor.
3 hours one way.
One way,
Wow, so if you want to get there and back, it's like 6 hours. That's
exactly.
crazy.
So having a team there that we really trust, who are really proactive, who are really transparent, and just really motivated, has been a huge factor because we trust them, and we have that dialogue. So we do Zoom calls with them, we have photos pretty much every day, we have an update.
Yeah.
The communication between us is so strong. We went to America for 2 weeks and we came back, and the amount they had done was incredible. So for us, it's been building a team who are on your side and they're invested in you and your journey. So like with all of our team, we share what our goals are. And we say, this is what we're trying to achieve. You know, do you want to be part of working on that with us? And if they seem a bit like, then they're not on the team.
And I think to that point, in terms of the team having a common understanding, most of our team, whether it's the contractors or lawyers or brokers, they're actually investors themselves. So you're already on the same wavelength from that. Yeah, you just have an understanding. And we spend time with them, we have dinners together, we know each other's kids. And so it certainly builds that bond. And as Ashley said, that's a tip for somebody starting out: surround yourself with the right people. Yeah. And that's a big help. And then the part I love the most, which is systems. When you're strapped for time, it's so valuable to try and automate things. So I always think this way: if you do something, if you send an email, I always think to myself, am I going to have to send that type of email again in the future? If I am, I save it as a template. I try to make some bits anonymous, generic, but I know that when I come back to that, I'm going to need to use that again. Or if, for instance, we're working on floor plans, Ashley's a genius at floor plans. We found a simple bit of software. Are we going to have to do this again? Yes. So let's not draw it by hand. Let's do it on a piece of software that we can copy, paste, tweak a few things, right? So everything we try to do is find a way that you can automate it so next time it's easier, and that saves a bunch of time. And then even with social media, and we might even come into this in detail, but again, we try to automate the posting so it's not arduous, it's simple, repetitive, but it's consistent.
So you can add more value to people, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So those are tips, I think. Try and systemize things, automate them.
So would you say in the last 12 months, because you've been able to do 4 times as much as it took you 3 years, like these are just some of the things that's allowed you to do that?
Definitely.
100%, 100%. And we've used a lot of like project management tools, like online. So like communication between, even Dan and I might be in different places, but he can see what I've done so that he's not duplicating what I'm doing. So, because that's something we were definitely doing before.
We were doing a lot of that. So one of the tools we use is called Asana. Most people know about it. Project management tool, keeps everything in one place, super easy. And then we use another tool called Slack, which is a communication tool, and it helps our team know. So everything everybody does, no one has to repeat it. It's already there, the latest version. And that's helped because it just saves you time. And I think that's how we've been able to juggle everything.
Yeah.
And also just having the shortcuts as well. That's another tip. When you do surround yourself with people, they will tell you how to avoid certain mistakes. What's taken them 10 years to learn, you might be able to condense, right? So there's less effort needed in terms of different things you've got to do because you've got more of a blueprint. It's not easy,
There's
but you've got a blueprint.
Absolutely. Every single project is new and different challenges. Every single one. That's why I think if people want to get into property, they need to accept that you've always got to be a student.
That's it.
Because something changes every day.
Yes.
Every day.
Yeah.
So you learn something new every day. I think that's a good thing.
Definitely.
But you don't learn if you don't do it.
So here's the thing that I think is going to help people the most.
Yes.
So some of these excuses that you were giving yourself, the big ones, the ones that really stop you from moving forward.
Yes.
What is either the realization that you've had or something, just advice you can give to people like, hey, look, if this excuse is in your mind that you don't have the money so you can't invest, like what's your advice?
So where should we start with?
So one thing I learned was about what happens if I don't do this. So you've got your excuses that are all the reasons why you can't do it. And you've got a reason why you want to do it.
What are the excuses? Because if you've had these excuses, but you've overcome them.
Yeah.
Right? So like, how can we help these people realize that this excuse? Because to them right now, it's probably not an excuse.
Yeah.
They probably think it's like the truth. Like, oh no, it can't happen. Yeah. Real reason not to do it. So what were these excuses that you were telling yourself?
I mean, my biggest one was time. Right. It was.
So you're just saying I don't have time.
Just don't have the time. I'm trying to juggle a full-time job. It's quite a demanding job. Lots of travel. Doing a degree at the same time. Just a young family. Just don't have the time. And then the way to overcome that, I think, is firstly to realize that there are a lot of people who don't have the time. A lot of people who are single mothers out there, and they're doing it and they're finding a way to do it. So realization is a tip. So if you have an excuse, get around people who are dealing with that excuse. They don't have time, but they're doing it. That's a tip. The other way is, I think coaching, the value of coaching is huge, because what it does is it challenges the excuses from an outside perspective, right? Because when you're in your own head, it's so real.
What were the excuses?
Yeah,
so lack of
time and money as well.
Saying that I don't have the money.
Yeah, and I meet a lot of people now who say, "Oh, wow, you're doing all this in property. You must be loaded. You've got all this money to do it." And it's not the case in terms of, money is something that people think holds them back. But if you think most businesses successful businesses now were actually started when people didn't have money. And in the middle of a recession. I was listening to a podcast on James Dyson the other day, and he was pretty much bankrupt, almost broke, young family, but he started one of the most successful businesses, right? So there is a way that people can acquire what's needed in terms of funds and the money and the capital to invest.
So these excuses around,
exactly,
I don't have money, I can't raise money.
Correct.
It's too much legal jargon around having, somebody lend me some money. Or there's nobody out there that's going to lend me any money. Why does anyone want to lend me any money?
That's it. And
my excuse was around confidence.
Yeah,
so I thought, well, the people doing it must have all this confidence that I don't have. And for me, actually, to overcoming that excuse was doing my personal development. So doing my personal development, and again, what Dan was saying about the social proof, when you see other people in your network who've started not confident, maybe even less confident than I felt, and seeing them transform, you think, yes, it is possible to overcome that feeling of not having confidence. So that, for me, that was a massive excuse. These other people have all this confidence that I don't have.
And I think underpinning everything, the biggest tip is, if you have an excuse in your mind, just learn what to do to overcome that excuse. Expose yourself to learning. Because I think we have access to so many things. If you want to do something, someone's done it before, they've written a book about it, there's training about it. So to overcome that excuse, okay, there's not enough money, well, how can I find money? That's the first question, and you learn how to do that. I don't have confidence. How can I be more confident? I can invest in personal decisions. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest tip for us. It's just being a constant student, as you said.
Yeah.
And that's how we've overcome it.
This is Transformational Tuesday. So what would you say was the biggest contribution to your transformation?
Oof.
Wow.
Biggest contribution to transformation?
Well, I definitely think attending the real life event last November,
it launched it,
was a real turning point. But the process of coaching, I think, is what actually cemented the transformation.
So what was the transformation? What was because the word transformation means that you have become a more complex structure. You are capable of handling more. Which you definitely are.
It's different for both of us. So I talked about confidence at the beginning of the process. I wouldn't ring a letting agent or a builder or an estate agent because I was too shy. So I would write down all the people we need to ring and give the list to Daniel. Right? And I'm project managing the builds, I'm coordinating teams on multiple projects at once. And I wouldn't have said a year ago that I'd be a confident enough person to do that and do it well.
That is a true transformation.
Yeah.
I couldn't even pick up the phone.
And now you're on the side.
I'm not even kidding. And because of that, literally the project's coming on time, ahead of time, on budget, on schedule, doesn't miss a beat. There are challenges, but
I just didn't know it. I just had all these excuses, made me believe that I wasn't capable of that.
Definitely.
And as soon as I got rid of the excuses, I was like, I'm actually really amazing at this.
Yeah.
But I didn't know.
Good.
So me, I think it's less the confidence. I work in sales. You've got to do that stuff. It's more about the mindset and the expectation of what is possible, what you can achieve. So starting the process of coaching, definitely somebody challenging your beliefs. But a year ago, I thought to build this portfolio, we would have to try and acquire maybe one property every year or 2 years, and let's do that slowly, save a lot of money. I never imagined that it was possible to say, hey, you can invest in HMOs, you can convert them, you can buy a piece of land, and be in the process of building 4 houses. You can sponsor 3 kids and all these things.
All in 12 months.
Yeah.
At the same time.
So that's my transformation. It's just the fact that just opening my mind to what's possible while living your life and while, you know, still looking after your family, still having a job. So that's my transformation. It's just been the realization of what's possible and then actually going through the process.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's been great watching you, and I'm excited to have you back here again.
Definitely.
You know, at some point in the future to watch, you know, talking about this land and whatever else you guys start doing.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
It's a pleasure. It's amazing to watch. So I'm sure you're inspiring many, many, many people, and you're going to continue to do that.
Yes.
So there's just one thing that no matter what happens, nobody must forget this, and that is that you've got to do the right thing for the right reason, because that's the only way you're going to discover your true potential.